Hi, I hope you'll join me today to paint these geraniums in a clear picture. Today I'm using my size 6 Intuition flat and round brushes. I have my watercolor palette ready. I have my SeimiArt and Sonnet watercolors. I have a drawing pencil for penciling in that picture, and I have a jar of clear water. Let's get started. Okay, so I have lightly drawn my outline of my picture here, and what I want to do is go in with I think I'll use my lavender. That's my guinea out there making noise this morning. Needs a little attention or something. I threw some seeds out there, and I don't know, maybe he's a little excited. But he also hears me talking, so he thinks he needs to input something, I guess. So what I want to do is I've gotten my lavender. It's really more of a periwinkle. I've gotten that ready, and I'm just going to go ahead and brush around this outline of this picture, and I'm just doing that with my clean water. Well, clean-ish water, because today, because I'm outside, I am only working with one jar of water just to keep things a little more simple, and I've already used it to rinse my brush with my lavender paint on there. So there may be just a tiny bit of lavender on this, in this water, going around this picture here. And I went in a little bit right there, so just to keep that from going crazy, I want to dab some of that away. I guess I did a very good job of erasing because I can't entirely see all of my sketch marks. Okay, so then I just want to go and quickly rough out this entire background, but I wanted the area around the picture to be kind of just somewhat precise. Going around and give this just a nice loose border, nice and relaxed. Okay, go in here and just give this some water. And what I'm doing here is I'm leaving a few places without water because my plan is to not add pigment where I left that free, because I want to retain a bit more of my red for these geraniums. So just going with a little more water again around this picture because I want it very, this part I really want this outline to really pop. Okay, I've not used this color combination, and I'm gonna be honest, I did not even swatch it, but I feel like it will look good. So here's hoping. I want to round the bottom of this picture a little more, and you know, it does not have to be perfect. I'm going to go in up here. In a second I'll switch my brush from my size 6 round, and that way I can just be a little more precise. But I like this, and I want to keep this, you know, I don't mind if there are some brush strokes in that. I kind of want to leave this rather than making it very smooth. I kind of want it to be a bit imperfect out there. I just think that will give me a nice texture for that background. So that's kind of my goal. That's kind of the idea I have in my head, and we'll just see how that develops. It's kind of like photography back in the day when you couldn't just look at the back of your camera to see how what you did came out. You had to wait at least an hour, and if you were sending that stuff in by mail, it could be a week or two. Good night. I'm probably the only one who remembers that, but there you go. So I like it. Come in with just a little bit more pigment right here. And see, this spot is maybe a little dark because I did blot that. But I can kind of push some of that pigment out. I don't mind it. I think it'll be fine. Put a little more right here at the base of the picture. Okay, I like it. Just go in around these kind of open areas, dot in a little more pigment here. And these white areas are going to be our geraniums. Oh, it's going to be so fun. I just think this is going to be a fun little painting to do. So I'm rinsing out this brush really well. I noticed the other day I'd used some of my Madder Lake Red, and I was not very thorough when I rinsed out this flat brush. And the next day I painted, and I had all this magenta or Madder Lake on my paper. So don't be like me, kids. All right. So while that is drying, that background, and I like that, gosh, it's just such a nice color. I'm going to go in with my, let's see, let's do cherry red. So I think the cherry, rather than, you know, my garnet. Hello, Kenny. Hey, Kenny. Hey, hey. Oh my gosh. So I think this rather than the garnet, because it has just a little bit of blue in it. And I think we want that. And see, I've kind of touched maybe some where I had some background. Moisture still maybe a little wet. And I really think that's okay. He's extra today, you guys. That's all I can figure. He's just feeling himself. Really excited that I threw out some seeds. He hasn't been coming out to hang out with me in the mornings for the past couple of days, so I do think he's extra excited about those seeds. So here I'm just taking my plain water. And listen, geraniums, I think, are one of those really great imperfect flowers. You cannot do these things wrong. And so I'm just dotting in and just touching, just barely touching my wet brush to these. So I'm rinsing my brush out, I'm dragging it on the side of the jar, and then see that I'm just touching where I've got pigment. And do you see where this background was wet and that went out there, bled out into that? That is going to be just fine. I think that's actually going to be kind of interesting and make this just a more loose, wet interpretation of these flowers. And I like that. That's something I struggle with, is keeping things just genuinely loose and more abstract feeling. That's not my forte. I don't think. I feel like I struggle to do that. So I wanted to work with really just these maybe 2 areas at a time, because I don't want these dots really to dry too much as I'm working on another area. It's easy for that first area to start drying, and I don't want that, because I really want to be able to work with these while they're wet. I love geraniums. I think that they are really delightful to paint. I do love the confidence building that comes with them, because you can't get them wrong. And actually, if you make them less than symmetric, in my opinion, they look even more evocative of geraniums, because they're kind of, you know, they'll have a petal that just kind of goes off to the side. It's just kind of on its own. You don't know really what it's doing there, how it got there. And I like that. They're just fun. So then going back and just touching. And you can tell the difference. You can tell when you've got a dot that's kind of, it's dried somewhat. You can tell that it doesn't release as much pigment, and that's okay. You'll have some that kind of actually helps you, because you'll have some petals that, you know, really released their pigment and then some that didn't. And it just helps to retain some of the depth, and it really kind of ends up looking like it's detail that you painted into that flower that you really did not paint. You know, it just kind of happened. It just is there. So I love that. It ends up being kind of easy, I think. Okay, now here's my conundrum. I feel like I have made this a little symmetric, so I'm going to go out here maybe a little farther than just my white area, because I don't want this to look like dun 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 dun. I just don't. I want it to look, you know, a little more random. And that honestly can be kind of tricky to do. It's kind of tricky to create a composition that looks balanced without having too much symmetry in it. I think if somebody knows the key to that, honestly, send me a message, because I don't know the key, and I spent some time as a photographer, and so I know some things about composition and rules of thirds, the rule of thirds, and the, you know, golden, gosh, what am I trying to say? The golden spiral. But oh, excuse me, I don't really know sometimes how to keep things just nice and loose and not matchy. But here I think I have an idea of what to do. Now I just mixed, because that Madder Lake red is my go-to red. I just dipped into it. So, and I think that might be why these are kind of a pinker red. I may have already done it and just did not realize. So I'm just going in here and dotting a bit more of this cherry red. And listen, there is nothing wrong with that Madder red. That could be used for sure. But I did want something that was just a bit more of a red. Okay, and then this idea that I had was to go out here just with kind of this background sort of flower. And I think we could go off with some petals. So here we've kind of created a little more of a triangulation or a triangular shape, and I think that will help just to keep this from looking like we were making it too perfect. Let's add those and let's work real quick on these. There we go. All right. I do think geraniums do that kind of naturally. They get these like little leggy areas, and so they can get just where they, yeah, they just kind of go off. They just have a place there. Now, I struggle already, just kind of as a matter of course. I tend to struggle with leaves and leaf placement. But when I do geraniums, for some reason, the struggle seems amplified. So I hope today will not be a lot of struggle, but I don't know why. I either make too many or I feel like I make too few. So here I just brushed in some water in this spot where I've got the handle. And now I'm just dropping in some of this pigment. And I did that in kind of a, you know, really a droppy kind of way. I'm not blending it too much. I just want to see what it does. If it needs a little blending in a bit, then, you know, we can do that. Ordinarily, my favorite green is my olive green. However, for these geraniums, I will be using my tree green. Just much more of a green. But geranium leaves are kind of dark, and they can be dark with some yellow in there, but that green is very dark, and so I want this to be a very dark green. Okay, I have this geranium cluster right here in the center, but I do not really want a stem right in the center, maybe right here, just a little to the right of center. But I want some leaves in this area first. Well, geranium leaves, they're kind of cabbagey or lacy maybe. They're not real perfect, and so this is what, you know, just kind of scalloping in some rounded clamshell kind of shapes. That will do very nicely for these leaves. They do not need to be perfect. And I like to have one side, now this is just me, but I like one side kind of thicker with my pigment. I just feel like that enhances the depth, and you know, you can go in and kind of make that messy, but I'll come back with some yellow to kind of finish these out. I kind of like for most of these to have a leaf, at least one, and then maybe just kind of finishing those out with some lighter washes, I think may work real well. So then just kind of, you know, adding some that are just peeking out from behind, just kind of to fill that in. That's what I think they kind of need, and I think it's sometimes the thing I miss. Okay, I like that. I feel like it's not overly green, it's not overly worked. And I need to decide what to do with my picture. I haven't quite decided if I want to make a pattern on it, if I want to leave it white. I don't know if I want to put greenery in it and make it, you know, put the stems in there and have water, you know. I have not decided, so I need to figure that out. And I may have a better idea once I get closer to that, but right now I truly do not know. And I kind of like that, because it kind of, I don't know, it just makes me a little more open to what's going on in the moment, maybe. Okay, just kind of doing some of these little, I don't know, tendril brushy things. So now I want to go in with a bit of this yellow, and I'm kind of hoping I haven't let my green dry too much, but I'm really not worried. I go in with the yellow and kind of a wet wash of this. And I just want to, I'm not perfectly filling these. It's okay if, now that might have been a little too wet, and that's okay. I'm just going to let it kind of dry for a second, and then I may dab it. But I'm not trying to get every square inch. It's okay if some of that white still shows. It's okay if this blends entirely with the green. You know, you can see what you like. But these will kind of merge. I like it. Now you can see the shape of my picture is not wonderful. See how it comes in here? And I don't know how much I need to be concerned about that. You know, I can probably smooth out on the handle side, just define that a little more. But I'm not, you know, even though I did pencil that, it's not perfect, and that's okay. And I think that improved it quite a bit right there without getting too fussy. And maybe just a little more. And then just kind of dot that, blend it. Okay, I really, really do. And one thing I feel like I need right here is just to kind of wake up my green pigment, and I want to go in where I have these red flowers, and I just want to make a few little kind of stem things in there, because they're, you know, they're on these separate little, gosh, they just split off, and they have all these little stems kind of connecting all these little petals and flowers. And so, you know, you can kind of see those stems in there, and they can be kind of leggy. So that's just such a cute little detail to add, and it adds really so much dimension, I think. And you don't have to get fussy about this. I'm not making sure that every petal has one of those little stem things, not at all, because you don't need it. These, especially with these little paintings. Now, bigger paintings, you know, they get a bit more scrutiny, and maybe they're not quite as forgiving in that regard, but these little paintings, they're just quite forgiving. You know, you just don't have to paint every detail. It's not needed, and maybe is even better without it. Maybe requires a bit more creativity in the mind of the viewer, but I like that really well. So I do want to kind of want to go back and add a little yellow in that leaf that I turned mostly green. And we've got these little guys. And then I just kind of want to brush in some, I don't know, I think this needs some other greens in there. You know, I don't know that necessarily you'd have to have them, but so I'm going to go in with this olive, because I feel like, you know, ordinarily I probably would have mixed that green that I was using and a brown, and you know, you could do any kind of leaves that you like. I think I will do one of my Old Faithful, and it's, you know, these little curvy stems, and just kind of dot in these little petals. They don't have to be fussy, but these are really good filler, and you kind of want to overlap. I do anyway. I like to overlap a bit with what's there, so that, you know, it just looks a bit more natural. Okay, let's get some of these little greens in here. And see, you know, any of this that you're seeing there can kind of be in the background. It's stuff that's, you know, maybe behind these florals. And so it makes sense to have some lighter tones in there too. And I'll probably go back with some of that tree green and just give some depth there, just layering in some things that are a lighter wash, so that they're just, you know, they're just this background stuff, but I think it just kind of fleshes it out. Yes, I really like this combination of this olive green, and I went really farther than I wanted on that. So I'm just dabbing a tiny bit of water on my cloth. I'm not going to worry too much, and what I may do is just not put an end leaf on it yet, and then just see what I like when it's a little more dry. Okay, I like it. Very, very fun. Oh my gosh, this has been really fun today. I don't know if you can hear all my fountains going and the birds. My goodness. They were kind of quiet earlier this morning. I was surprised. It's just kind of a quiet morning. Okay, I like that. Okay, just these little, just a little of this peeking out. I want to get some of this. And I didn't really rinse my brush too much because I don't mind if I have a little blending here, but just some of these kind of peeking. And even inside of here, just kind of filling out some of those greens. Just maybe kind of dotting inside of those rather than filling them with pigment. Okay, I like that a lot. A lot, actually. That's me being surprised. That's no surprise that I'm surprised. And you know, I've got this that I kind of let bleed into the background, but I kind of feel like I should just go ahead and put some leaves into and over that. This is tricky. I feel like, let's go this way. Okay, I think that works. Cute. Okay. Okay, I like it. So I'm thinking that for the picture, I do want maybe to go in with stems and a waterline. I don't know, it's hard to decide. I really like it like this, but I really think I'm going to like it with water. So what I want to do is just go in first with my clean water, and I'm just making kind of some swirl lines, some curved lines up where I'm going to have the water line. And then I'm just outlining inside of this. I'm outlining just inside the outer outline of the picture. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to show the outline of the glass pitcher. And so, you know, leaving that little space there makes it so that you can imagine that that's the glass, actually. I'm going to use the tiniest bit of Payne's Gray in a nice wash of water. So, you know, I'm going to use much heavier water here. And just kind of, you know, imperfectly make this water line. And then just kind of brushing, loosely brushing in this, excuse me, pigment around these edges, and then just kind of, you know, work it in, but loosely. I like to do that because I like the idea of, you know, the glass glistening a bit. And I tend to go a little darker at the bottom, like, you know, I just feel like that's what I would see. I like that, and then I want to go in while this is still wet and make my stems. And I just love doing this. I just feel like it's ends up so magical. So let's go in and see. I just love that that thing that happens. They start bleeding in this water. Okay, I like that. This green in the water is very green, which is different for me. I'm just so used to that olive, which ends up being rather yellow actually. But, and then we do want some of that olive in there as stems as well, because we have some greenery. I cannot believe we're so close to being done. This is, I may have to paint something else. I had so much fun with this. Let's take some of this olive down here. Oh gosh, I love that. Yes, very good. I like that a whole lot. Okay. And you know, this can easily be overdone. It's easy to do too much here. And so I would say if you're unsure, come back, you know, just take a little break from it, come back to it. It's easy to overdo, but it's also very easy to just walk away for a bit, see what you have. You can always come back, but you cannot always undo. Isn't that the truth? Oh gosh, I love this. Would make the cutest card. And I love the imperfection of it. I just truly, truly do. Okay, for my shadow, I do think I'd just like to go in with my background color. And what I'm going to do, I've just rinsed my brush and I'm just going along the bottom edge of this picture with some water. And then I'm taking that background pigment, the lavender. Now, I think I may need to do some Payne's Gray in here. This is not achieving what I thought it would. Well, maybe it is. Maybe I need to be patient. I would like to think I learned something today, folks, but about being patient, not sure. Not sure. Okay, I love that. I think that works really well for that shadow. And yes, sometimes just wait and see what's going to happen with something before you, like me, kind of knee-jerk and create a little drama for yourself. So there we go. This has just been a joy today. This cheerful geranium picture. I hope that you enjoyed painting with me today, or that you will try this. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. And as always, happy painting.